So if the interpreters could come back to the original audio channel to introduce yourselves and give the instructions for interpretation, that would be great. And maybe we can start with Ramon. Ramon, we can't hear you yet. Can you change your audio to original audio? You're speaking to original audio. Yep. Yes. And if you could just ask folks to choose in the interpretation option at the bottom, the Portuguese option in Portuguese. Thank you. And then Joanna, can you go next and just change your speaking to channel to original audio? We can give the instructions, same instructions for Spanish, please. Thank you. And then Hanan, I'll ask you as well to just switch your audio back to original audio and give the instructions in Arabic.
And just as a brief icebreaker, while we're waiting for everybody to get adjusted, in the chat, please tell us what your favorite winter activity is with children. All right, looks like we have some interesting responses coming in. Tubing and playing in the snow, Christmas cookies, building an igloo. Okay, going to the Enchanted Village at Jordan's. Good answers. Okay, all right. I think we're gonna go ahead and get things started. If we run into any issues, please flag it in the chat. Good evening. My name is Courtney Lewis. I'm a regional planner at the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, MAPC. I want to note that we will be recording tonight's presentation. So those who weren't able to join us this evening can still watch the recording of the session and provide feedback. Next slide.
Hi, Courtney. I think we have to make sure that interpretation is working. I choose different languages and none of them are translating. I can still hear the English. And I have some folks asking me as well through chats.
Okay.
Portuguese is good. I'm on the Portuguese channel and we're all set.
All right.
Olga, do you try the Arabic?
Can I get a thumbs up, or can you if you're having issues with
Spanish is good
interpretation?
now.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know the rest.
All right. If you have an issue with interpretation, can you please just use the raise hand function? Okay. All right. Yeah. So we started with the icebreaker, and I appreciate everyone who responded to the question in the chat function. Next slide. Okay, so here's a look at tonight's agenda. We'll give everyone an opportunity to introduce themselves from the project team. We'll do a quick poll to see who is in the audience. We'll talk about childcare and the significant price tag that it brings along with it. We'll talk some about the about project goals, local and state childcare regulations. We'll discuss and highlight some of the challenges and issues with the existing regulations, and then we'll talk about possible recommendations at the end. Next slide. All right. I am going to hand it over to my colleague, Gloria from MAPC, who is going to walk us through our group agreements for this evening. And she will also introduce herself and her role on the project.
Thanks
Gloria.
so much, Courtney. Thanks, Courtney. Hi, everybody. My name's Gloria Huangpu. I am a community engagement specialist here at MAPC. So I help with putting together events like this so that we can hear from members of the community about the topic that we're working on. In meetings just like this one, we always like to start with some group agreements to make sure that we have a fruitful conversation. Really just basic rules of respect for one another. So starting with things like using I statements and talking from your personal experience, taking space and making space. So speaking up if you haven't been as vocal, or sort of leaving room for others to speak up and making space for them if others are participating less. Making sure we're listening for understanding of what other folks in the group are saying, sharing the lesson, not the story. So making sure we're really getting to the core lessons that are going to be beneficial to everyone here. And then a final technical reminder to just make sure you're muted if you're not speaking so that we can hear everybody. Feel free to send me a direct message in the chat if you have any questions about this. But hopefully these are some group agreements that we can all adhere to for our conversation tonight.
All right. Thank you, Gloria. Once again, my name is Courtney Lewis. I'm a senior planner at the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And so glad to have everyone here this evening to discuss home-based childcare in Revere. This is the project team and partners. This planning effort is guided by city staff as well as an advisory committee that is made up of representatives from community organizations as well as home-based childcare providers. Gloria and I have already introduced ourselves, so I'll now pass it over to Danielle, and I'll also ask members of the advisory committee to briefly unmute and introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Danielle Osterman, and I'm the Community Development Program Manager with the City of Revere. Also, for everyone else on the advisory committee, you might have to come back to the English channel for the rest of the group to be able to hear you.
I can go next. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for all of the guests here. Olga Takure, the Executive Director of Women Encouraging Empowerment, a community-based organization in Revere that is working with childcare providers at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. Okay, so just in the interest of time and to keep everybody on the same page, we'll just proceed, and hopefully we'll have an opportunity to do a little chatting in the Q&A portion. All right, next slide. MAPC, or the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, is the regional planning agency for Greater Boston. We serve and provide technical assistance to the 101 cities and towns in our region, and our mission is to promote smart growth and regional collaboration. We also aim to bring to center our work in equity as an agency. Next slide. So so now that we've told you a little bit about ourselves, we want to get to know you. We're going to do a quick Zoom poll, which should pop up on your screen in just a moment. And we're asking you to we're asking how you would describe yourself. Are you a parent or a guardian looking for childcare? Are you a parent or a guardian of a child that is currently participating in a childcare program? Are you a childcare provider or an employee of a provider? Are you a parent, guardian, and a childcare provider, or are you simply a interested member of the community? All right, we're going to give it just a couple more seconds. It looks like most people are providers, which is great. We definitely want to hear from you, hear what you have to say.
السلام عليكم، حد سمعني كده ولا لا؟ طيب السلام عليكم، مين معايا؟ معلش
السلام عليكم أخت أسماء.
عليكم السلام ورحمة. تقريبا هي في مشكلة عن أخت حنان، سمعاني ولا؟
ما أعرفش أنا هذا سمعتك.
طيب أنا ما سمعتكيش ولا كلمة. هم سمعوني لما أنا اتكلمت. تقريبا في مشكلة من عندك.
أسماء السلام عليكم.
Okay.
نعم حبيبتي. أيوة بسمعك.
Asma, are you still having trouble with the Arabic interpretation?
مش عارفة والله.
We can hear you أسماء، كان سمعوك.
أنا أسمع فيك أسماء.
I don't know if it is just me. I'm hearing the English and Arabic mixed up at the same channel. And I'm in the English and hearing both.
Okay, give us just 1 second.
مين معانا دلوقتي في الروم؟
أنا معاك
حنان
أسماء.
صح؟
السلام عليكم أسماء. معك زينب.
عليكم السلام يا زينب.
أنا معاك
سمعاني صح؟
زينب. أنا معاك أخت أسماء.
أهلا بيك يا حبيبتي. طيب خليكي معانا، أنا كده إحنا كده سامعين.
أوكي.
طيب ماشي. ومليكة معانا ورشيدة.
حسنى.
وحسنى.
نعم أختي.
تمام.
Asma, I am
You still hear me in the?
Yes.
Still hear the conversation in Arabic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have any idea what's going on. So I'm gonna jump again to the Arabic channel and I'm gonna talk and let's see if you can still hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm in the Arabic channel.
Well, Hanan, can you hear us right now? Are you having trouble with the interpretation in the Arabic channel? And apologies everyone for the technical issues here. If you could put in the chat, Hanan, if you're not able to jump over to the other channel. If not, I could reassign you as the interpreter.
Yeah, that's fine with me. Don't worry. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's try that.
طيب سامعيني انتوا ولا؟
احنا سامعينك الأخت أسماء.
أنا سامعك، كان سمعوك أسماء. مليكة السلام عليكم.
وعليك السلام أخت رشيدة.
زينب.
رشيدة السلام عليكم كاملين.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
Okay. I think we're going to go ahead and proceed. We'll try and we'll try to continue to work through some of the translation issues, interpretation issues. Really apologize for the issues this evening. In terms of childcare, improving access to childcare is a pressing problem throughout the country, which was definitely made worse by the pandemic. According to data from the Economic Policy Institute, Massachusetts is the second most expensive state for infant care in the US. That is the annual cost for infant care averages out at about $20,913. And that cost is more significant than the cost of tuition at a four-year, the cost of in-state tuition at a four-year public college year, as well as the average cost of rent. Next slide. So in an effort to expand access to childcare and to expand access to job opportunities and training, the City of Revere partnered with MAPC to identify barriers to childcare in the current ordinance and provide greater and more equitable access to those opportunities. We also are striving to build support for the project through community engagement, as well as storytelling and engagement with residents who will help bring about changes to the existing ordinance. If the amended zoning is successfully changed, it would allow for more providers to bring home-based centers online. It would increase access to Revere. It would increase access to childcare to Revere residents, allow parents and guardians to enter the workforce and help improve children's readiness to help children be more prepared for school. Next slide, please. This work aligns with both local and state level planning efforts, including the early education, the Department of Early Education and Care's strategic action plan. Next slide. as well as the city's workforce development plan. This plan recommended that the city look at revising its zoning ordinance in order to incentivize incentivize the development of more local childcare facilities in the city. There are several areas throughout the city that are also considered childcare deserts. And this is a term that is borrowed from food deserts, which are areas that have limited access and affordability to nutritious food. In a similar manner, childcare deserts, a childcare desert is considered an area or a community with limited to no access to childcare, to quality childcare. Excuse me. Sorry. The strategic action plan that I mentioned earlier also gathered data from communities across the state that show communities with a significant gap in childcare services for children ages 1 to 4. And this chart is a smaller list of inner core communities, with Revere being part of this list, that shows that there's a need for there's a significant need for childcare. So when we're talking about regulations, there are state regulations, and then there are also a set of local regulations for childcare. The state handles licensing and certification for family childcare or in-home care, as well as center-based childcare facilities. They also regulate and set capacity standards for these facilities. And they set minimal square footage and ratio requirements for indoor and outdoor spaces. In terms of local regulations, the city also regulates these facilities through local zoning, which includes use standards that regulate the location, the size, and type of childcare facility. The zoning ordinance also regulates things like the exterior of buildings, as well as the hours of operation the numbers of employees, and they also set things like parking requirements. The Department of Early Education and Care, or EEC, is the state department that oversees, that's charged with overseeing licensing and certification of childcare programs. They approve, they issue licenses to providers, and they also approve various different types of childcare programs. But our focus for this evening is family childcare. So looking at as I mentioned, there are 3 different types of licenses.
It's all good.
As I mentioned, there are 3 different types of licenses. The family childcare licenses allow providers to care for up to 10 children, and small and large group and school age licenses allow providers to care for 10 or more children. And these, a major difference in these licenses, other than the capacity, is where care takes place. So family child care licenses take place in the provider's residence, and the other licenses take place in facilities in the community, and this includes facilities like school buildings, and community centers, community and development centers. As I mentioned, family child care takes place in a provider's residence, and there are 3 different licenses for family child care programs. A provider can care for up to 10 children, but this is based upon give me 1 second. I think we're having an issue with okay. As I was saying, the differences between these 3 types of licenses have to do with capacity, as well as the provider's ability to accommodate the space requirements of the state. Next slide. This is a summarized list of some of the requirements of a family child care provider. This is not everything, but this is, like I said, a summarized list. one of the things that providers have to do is pass a home inspection of the facility. They also have to obtain CPR certification and basic first aid training, and keep those certifications up to date. They're also required to complete professional development hours every year. And their licenses are issued for 3 years, and any assistants or additional employees have to also be approved by the EEC. Next slide. So looking at the city's existing regulations, family daycare homes are restricted to 4 or fewer children in residential and business zones throughout the city, and those are the orange areas highlighted on this map. They also require a provider to obtain a special permit from the city. Day nurseries, on the other hand, which based on the city's current definition, include things like nurseries, daycare centers, child development programs, essentially anything outside, any care that takes place outside of a provider's home is permitted in all zoning districts throughout the city, and they are also allowed to care for up to 10 children if they meet certain criteria outlined in the zoning ordinance. Next slide. As I mentioned before, the state has a set of standards and requirements for indoor and outdoor space based on the number of children that they are caring for. The state allows anyone with a family child care license to care for up to 10 children, provided that the space can accommodate up to 35 square feet per children, and allows and has 2 hazard-free exits in the facility, at the facility. Next slide. Looking at the city's local space requirements, as I mentioned before, the zoning ordinance restricts home-based providers to 4 children, and they have to meet the same space requirements of the state, but they are also limited to 1 employee because of the way that their use is defined. Because of the way that their use is defined in the city zoning ordinance. Next slide, please. This slide shows a summarized list of other other requirements outlined in the city's ordinance. As I mentioned, the family daycares are regulated as a home occupation, provided that they, which means that a certain percentage of the business is dedicated to a certain percentage of the structure is dedicated to business use. Again, one of the things that is highlighted in the city's ordinance that is the presence of a swimming pool on the premises of the child care facility. And then another requirement is for the business to be, is for the provider to register their business with the city's clerk's office. Next slide. So looking at some of the major issues or challenges with the city's existing ordinance, we have definitions. The city's definitions for family daycare home and day nursery are inconsistent with how the state defines with how the state defines childcare facilities, and this creates issues with interpretation and enforcement. Another issue is licensing capacity. Even though the state allows for providers, family childcare providers to care for up to 10 children, local regulations limit providers to 4 children. The local zoning ordinance also restricts or prohibits swimming pools on the premises of a family daycare home. And as I mentioned before, family childcare providers have to apply for a special permit instead of that use being by right in the city. Next slide. So these are just some very, very preliminary recommendations. These are things that that I identified in my review of the city's ordinance and some possible suggestions on how the ordinance can be amended. The first recommendation is updating the definitions so that they are consistent with the state's licensing definitions for family, group, and school age child care programs. This would allow providers to care for up to 10 children if they meet those space requirements. Next slide. Another recommendation is to permit family daycare homes in all zoning districts in the city, the same as day nurseries, and to do it with and to allow them without a special permit. So not requiring providers to have to take that additional step. I also would recommend that the city remove language that restricts the use of that restricts swimming pools on the premises of a family daycare home, and simply put language and measures in place to ensure safety, similar to the statement that I pulled from the state's regulations, which simply says that where pools are present on that they have to be made inaccessible to children through the use of fences, lock gates, and other appropriate barriers. Next slide. All right. All right, we've come to the portion of the evening where we would like to stop and take questions, and also just discuss any of the material that I went through. I I apologize if that presentation didn't go as smooth as I had it initially anticipated, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have, or clear up anything that wasn't clear. So if you could use the raised hand function, I'd be happy to answer any questions, or use the chat function. And it looks like we have a question from Tracy.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So when did all of these regulations in the city of Revere go into effect? Because I've been doing this for 27 years as of September, and this is the first I've ever heard of it. And I know that the city knows I have a daycare because they were clear to contact me during COVID with any issues regarding, the closure. When I got COVID, having to send in a receipt that I had professionally cleaned. And so I know that the mayor's office, especially, and the Board of Health are perfectly clear that I've been doing daycare out of the house. First I've heard. I don't have a swimming pool, but that's the first I've heard. I know people that do it, that have them. So first I've heard that we can't have over 4 children. How do they expect us to survive? This is an income for us also, aside from loving what we do. But you expect parents to go back to work and go back out into the workforce, and you're cutting daycare. How do you, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. I just recently heard that we weren't allowed to go up to 10 because I had applied for that license years ago and just never did it. And I was thinking of possibly doing that. I don't know. This is all new to me. I heard nothing about this. When did this happen?
From my and I'd have to triple check but I think these went into place in the late 90s in the city.
Wow.
If I'm not mistaken. Danielle, feel free to chime in, but I do believe it was sometimes in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm. I've owned my house in Revere for 25 years, been doing the daycare for 27. I did it out of my apartment prior to that. Never heard anything about this. Never. Nothing. I mean, has anyone else that does daycare in Revere known about this up until recently?
Yeah, I can speak a little on this. I've been working with childcare providers in Revere for a while. And although these rules have been like on the books, they're not always enforced. And that's a little part of the problem though, because if they're on the books, then they can be enforced for like some people or not for others, right? So we want to make sure we want to remove barriers that exist on paper. Because even though like the people at City Hall aren't necessarily enforcing them, it does raise a lot of questions like what's legal and what isn't, right? And how would these things, if like somebody was like, oh, we got to follow the book, right? How are they going to affect businesses nowadays? So a lot of things are just correcting things that don't make sense in the books. And I've been doing like a lot of research across different cities and towns. They all have versions of this. There's no updated thing. And so that's why we're like bringing it to the state to remove these barriers across the entire state. And that's what we're working on right now.
That's great. I mean, I think it's really important that this is crazy. I knew nothing about this at all. And that's terrible because these parents, I mean, I have 6 kids enrolled in the daycare full time. And I get calls every day for people that are so stressed out because they've called a million daycares and no one has openings. And they have to go back to work, you know? I mean, how do you expect them to do that and not have daycare? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a huge problem, and we're working with Lydia Edwards, the senator, to try to introduce legislation in the next cycle to remove the barriers across the state. California and Colorado did it in the last couple of years because they had similar problems, but it just doesn't make sense that like childcare should be in the hands of local like city councils who don't like know what it's like on the ground and don't like have a stake in needing childcare. So yeah,
truthfully, they have no problem putting all of these apartment buildings up in the city. They've totally jammed us with these apartments everywhere, and families are moving into them, or young couples are that are having babies. So where are they going to put them?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a phenomenal question. And Danielle's in the chat, like we'd love to.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I'm from EEC. I'm an actual licenser in Revere. So I just like to kind of explain in the 2.5 years that I've been with EEC. So my understanding was that this kind of resulted from, apparently the city had these ordinances on the books, but they weren't being enforced because apparently they weren't aware very much of all the family childcare programs that were in homes. And so once COVID hit and the recommendation from the Department of Public Health and from the state was to report COVID cases and also to report them to your local board of health, what happened was that we have now all of these childcare providers in Revere calling the Revere local board of health to report COVID cases in their family childcare. And it kind of opened up this huge can of worms in Revere that brought this situation to light. And so unfortunately, we have been restricted, and we're trying to work with the city of Revere. My director's here, and she can explain a little bit more if she wants to about what we're trying to do with the city of Revere to try to help and support the family educators, because we have been having to deny any licenses over 6. And there are great quality programs. I can tell you again firsthand, I'm on the front lines. I go and visit these programs pretty much every day, and they're great quality programs. And there's a childcare crisis right now. And unfortunately, the situation right now is that people's hands are being tied, not only the childcare providers, but also EEC licensors, because we can't upgrade anybody to 8 or 10. And the agreement was to right now leave it for 6. So we're hoping that meetings like this and collaboration with the state and with the city, that we can try to get this situated so that everybody can benefit, not only the parents, but, the childcare providers. These are small business owners. A majority of them are women. We want to be able to support that as well. A lot of these educators also work with DCF. So they take DCF slots, like DCF pays these childcare educators a certain rate to take these children in that are high risk, to be able to have somewhere so that situations regarding DCF can be mitigated with the family and trying to support them. And childcare is one of the huge ones. I can tell you, I worked for DCF for 11 years. Childcare was one of the first things that we, as a DCF worker, we always put in to try to help and support the family and try to keep them together. And so
like I said, it's difficult because it's limiting a lot of my great programs that I have in Revere that I've seen. They have the space, they have beautiful programs, great curriculums, they're supported by bigger systems, and just to have to tell them and deny them, it is a little heartbreaking. It's difficult because again, we want people to succeed, and we want to support the community. We want to support working families. In general, I mean, it is a family. I mean, it is in a home. It's a home-based daycare. Many of my educators own their homes. They have driveways. Parents aren't parking there all day. It's probably a 10-minute parking situation to drop off their child, to come, drop off their child, sign in, and then to pick up their child in the afternoon. And I've actually sat outside certain busy streets, and there's more cars going down the street than somebody coming to drop off their child at a program. So I've actually done that. I sat outside one day for 15 minutes just to kind of see how busy the street was, just kind of for my own research. And not one person stopped to drop off their child and was contributing to any of the traffic in that side street. So there's a lot of things that I think that Revere, because we're talking about Revere, they need to kind of take into account in terms of like the zoning ordinances, asking for parking permits and all that, because essentially many of them have their own driveways, and essentially their parents aren't parking there for 8 or 9 hours a day, taking up residential spaces. And I think that that's a huge concern as well. And I get that, but that's not what's happening with these family childcare programs. So sorry, I didn't mean to go on. I just wanted to explain kind of the back end of, what we're seeing as EEC licensors, and trying to support these small business owners, who are also, like I said, majority of them are women, small business owners, trying to work with DCF to try to provide those children also with great childcare, to try to support families to stay together, to then also try to support these families, because this is their livelihood. And if they're limited to 6 children, it can get difficult sometimes. I mean, mortgage payments, taxes, like, you have your own family to take care of. It's a business, so you have to buy items for your business, like toys, activities, that all needs to be paid for somehow. So these educators are doing so much for their community, not only for the community, but for themselves. And I think that Revere really needs to take that into consideration and maybe have a little bit more meetings about what childcare providers need to try to get these ordinances to kind of align with what EEC and the state is doing and recommending.
Thank you so much. We do have a few more hands. I just wanted to pause just for a second and thank everyone for your comments and input. This is really important. And I want to emphasize that the focus of this project is not to point fingers at the city or at the state. It's really to look at solutions and build support for bringing about change. And so that I'm extremely passionate. I've done a lot of research on this particular subject, and I have a great appreciation for childcare providers and the work that you do. And so one of the things that I'm hoping we'll get from this, an outcome from this project will be that we gather the stories and the lived experiences of the people and the providers in this community, and we present that before the city to help hopefully bring about positive change. All right. So I thank everyone for your comments. And I think we have a hand from Gladys. Gladys, if you want to unmute yourself. No? Okay.
I'm sorry, what?
Yes. Did you have a question?
No, we are good. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. And also thank you to EEC for participating and showing up tonight this evening. We appreciate you taking time out to be here. Do you have thoughts?
Courtney,
questions?
I just want to. I'm the regional director for the Department of Early Education and Care, and I want to really commend you and your team for working with the city of Revere, for really taking a thoughtful look at this and being inclusive in the way you've gone out to the community to find out kind of what the maybe unintended impact of regulatory change might be. So I just think that we really appreciate the support from the city of Revere and how transparent and supportive they've been.
Thank you.
I do know you deserve better than this.
Hi, Sandra. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, good. Go ahead, Tracy.
1 second. Okay. So what can we do to help you to change this?
Great question. Gloria, if you can bring up the slides, we'll talk a little bit about that right now. Because this was just a first step. This was me gathering information, looking at regulations in other communities, looking at the same issue from different perspectives in different areas throughout the country. Like I said, this issue is not just a Revere issue. The regulations may be unique to Revere. However, the access and the supply of childcare and the need for additional childcare is something that is nationwide. So what can you do? One of the things that we are going to do after the meeting is send out a post-meeting email that will include this PowerPoint presentation, recordings recordings from tonight's session, and a brief survey to gather additional information. Part of that survey will be asking for your contact information and whether you would be interested in participating in a focus group. We after the first of the year, we're going to have a much larger survey that takes into consideration both people that are seeking childcare services as well as providers, so that it's we're gathering multiple perspectives. We're also asking for participants in focus groups, and we're looking to organize different focus groups and also make sure that they are language accessible. We're going to gather all this information and input, and then we would like to present, along with recommendations for an amended ordinance, some of these perspectives, views, and lived experiences before City Council, in hopes of bringing about needed change to the ordinance. So that is how we have initially planned to go about engaging with providers and other people in the community. But I also would like to put a pin in that right now and open the floor up and ask if, from those who are present, how would you like to engage in this process? There could, how would you like to be engaged, or how would you like to participate in the process? We have outlined a specific approach, but some things are flexible, and if there's a better way to go about reaching people, we'd love to hear thoughts and ideas on that. Particularly if there's an event, or if there's a pretty consistent meeting or a group or an interest group that we should reach out to or try and connect with. We'd love to know that type of information as well.
Are you looking for that information now? Sorry.
If
Or
you
the
feel
future?
free,
Okay.
if you feel free with sharing that, that would be great. The last slide of this evening also has my contact information as well as Danielle's contact information. And so feel free to reach out that way. I'll also note that if you registered for the event, we ask for your email address when you register. We will be, we're constantly building a contact list for outreach purposes and looking for other people to connect with. And so rest assured that you'll have access to any information that we've shared, and any notifications that have to do with this project and the process will be sent to your email.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I'm going to pause just for a moment to see if Danielle has any additional thoughts, or anyone from the advisory committee. This may be a better time to just stop and introduce yourself, just so that everyone who's participating knows who you are, knows that they can reach out to you concerning this project as well.
And Courtney, just wanted to flag, I think I saw Tracy raised her hand again. And if anyone else has any other comments, feel free to put them in the chat or raise your hand as well. Tracy, do you want to go ahead?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say thank you so much. But I had no idea about all this, and I didn't mean to get so heated. It just, that felt like a punch in the throat. Like I had no idea that there were those regulations, and it's upsetting because I'm thinking to myself, now going forward, what is that going to be like? If we have 6 and the city only allows 4, are we supposed to tell 2 of the parents, like, see you later? I mean, that's a horrible position to be put in. And how are we supposed to know this? We thought we did this all right. We got licensed through the state. We thought that's what we were supposed to do as childcare providers. No one ever told us that there was city regulations. So what do we do going forward? And whatever you need from us, what you were asking before, like what we, think what routes we should take, or if we had any ideas, like I don't right now, but whatever you need from us, I'm in, I'm there, because it's totally crazy. It's
that type of passion is exactly the type of energy that we need for this project. I think Danielle mentioned this in the chat earlier, but it would be great to have. We'll be looking to gather or have people in the community submit testimonies, just noting challenges, issues, your frustrations with the existing regulations, and again, just helping to point out what may not be so obvious to someone who's not a provider, or someone who may not be in immediate need for childcare services. Yeah, we'll be looking for people to help champion this effort. And like I said, I'm very, very hopeful, very optimistic that that something great will come out of this process.
Yeah, I also just want to add really quickly to that. If you're someone who's, maybe never spoken at a public hearing or never provided testimony before, to please feel free to reach out to myself or other advisory members, and we're happy to, spend some time with you to help you write out a testimony. Do whatever we can to make you feel comfortable and make sure that your input is really included at the forefront of this conversation. But echo everything Courtney said. That passion, that's what we love. That's why we're doing this project, because we know that these regulations need to change. And so I'm really excited to hear that people are excited to get involved.
And also, I just wanted to add that for those who speak Spanish, Arabic, and they feel like reaching out to one of us that are the steering committee, feel free we can help you out. I think this is great coming together. This has been an issue, and hearing Tracy that she just found out, and I'm glad that she didn't went through many issues like other people. Having an ordinance in place that doesn't make sense, it could be enforced and it could not for others. So we want to remove that, and we need you all. I'm not a childcare provider, and I'm not in either childcare, but I do work at an organization that serves a lot of low-income families, working families who are really struggling. And there's a need of more childcare providers so our working families have access to affordable childcare so they can go and work, So your input, your voice is important, and we will need you all of this along when we present the draft to change this ordinance. We will need you to be there, not just us. So the more people, the more stories, the more voices, the more it's helpful. And when we work together, I think we have proved that we can. We're working with family childcare providers to organize, to provide trainings, and also to support this ordinance revision and change. So I'll leave my contact in the chat for those who want to get in contact, or I think you can share through the email as well. So thank you all for coming.
Courtney, I would just like to introduce myself too, if there's a moment. I'm Sylvia Chiang, and I am from the MGH Center for Community Health Improvement, and also from the Revere Cares Coalition, which is out of MGH too. And we've, known of this ordinance problem now for a while, because we've been working in the community of Revere for many years now. And I am so happy and glad that we're finally organizing and working to fix this problem. In the past, we hadn't had the capacity to help support a movement, but now the coalition is in a position of prioritizing economic stability and mobility in our community, and childcare is one of our priorities. So I'm happy to be here, happy to see everyone here. Yo también hablo español, soy latina, y es muy importante que nosotros nos mantengamos unidos y conversando y en comunicación para poder resolver este problema en la comunidad. So thank you everyone and happy to be here and support this important cause.
Thank you, Sylvia. Again, thank you all for being here.
Según ellos, todas las que tenemos 10 tenemos que echarnos.
Okay. All right. Once again, thank everyone for being here this evening. Hello, can you hear me? Okay. Again, thank you everyone for being here this evening. I certainly apologize for a few of the technical issues that we've had this evening. We are constantly working to improve and to make this information and the planning process accessible to everyone. So please bear with us. We're definitely gonna take back some of the lessons learned from this evening and be ready to do a lot better next time. So again, thank you for your time and your attention. If you have any additional thoughts, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. And please be on the lookout for the post-event email that will come out. Again, that will include the presentation from this evening if you want to go back and look at some of that information, recordings of the presentation, and a short survey to gather additional information from those who attended. So again, thank you and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, MAPC.
Thank you, everyone. Gracias.
Gracias a todos. Buenas noches.